Welcome to Monarch's Leadership AICast, where Monarch partners with Google's Notebook LM to bring you I/O and leadership expertise knowledge in digestible AI-generated podcasts.
And as always, all podcasts are reviewed by the Monarch team.
Today, we're going to unlock the potential of self-directed learning.
Yes.
It's not just about keeping up with the times.
Right.
It's about thriving in your personal and professional life, especially as a leader.
Yeah. You know what's fascinating is that we often think about leadership development as these big formal programs.
Yeah.
But in reality, so much of your growth as a leader comes from your own initiative, your self-directed learning.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we're going to dive deep into a blog post all about this. It's called Making the Most of Individual Learning.
Okay.
And it's packed with practical tips and strategies.
Oh.
Now, for those of you listening who are already in leadership positions,
Yeah.
think back to a recent challenge you faced.
Mm-hmm.
Was there a specific skill that could help you navigate that situation more effectively?
That's a great question to consider.
Yeah.
And it leads perfectly into the blog post's emphasis on setting clear learning goals.
Okay.
You want to move beyond vague intentions like, I want to be a better leader,
Right.
and pinpoint the exact skills that you want to develop.
So instead of that vague intention, maybe the goal becomes, I want to master the art of delegation.
Right.
So I can empower my team and free up my time for strategic thinking.
Exactly. And the specificity is key here.
Yeah.
When your learning is directly tied to a concrete outcome like that, it becomes so much more powerful.
The blog post also talks about creating a learning plan, actually treating your self-directed learning like an important meeting on your calendar. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that's a brilliant strategy.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that learning is an investment, not something you squeeze in if you have a spare moment.
Right.
And it connects beautifully with the science of spaced repetition.
Oh, tell me more about that.
Which is the idea that short bursts of learning over time are much more effective than cramming.
So tell me more about spaced repetition. Why does that work so well?
So it's like building mental muscle memory.
Okay.
Let's say you learn a new leadership concept. Instead of just reading about it once and moving on.
Yeah.
You revisit it a few days later, then again a week later. By doing this, you're signaling to your brain, hey, this is important, hold on to this. And it strengthens those neural pathways.
So in a way, it's like you're tricking your brain into
Yes.
thinking that this information is critical, so it hangs on to it.
Precisely. It's all about outsmarting the forgetting curve. And speaking of effective learning techniques, the blog post also highlights the power of active recall.
Okay, I've heard this term active recall before, but to be honest, I'm still a little fuzzy on what it actually means.
Sure. So it's about actively retrieving information from your memory instead of passively reviewing it.
Okay.
Think about the difference between rereading a chapter in a leadership book and trying to explain the key concepts to someone else. When you have to actively recall the information, you force your brain to work much harder, which strengthens those neural connections.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So instead of just highlighting or underlining passages in that leadership book, you're saying I should close the book and try to summarize what I just read in my own words.
Exactly. Or even better, imagine you're teaching the concepts to a colleague.
Oh, wow.
That process of retrieving and explaining the information is where the real learning magic happens.
And that's what the blog post calls active recall.
It is, and the blog post suggests a few other techniques, like using flashcards, creating quizzes for yourself, or even just asking yourself reflective questions about the material.
I love that idea of reflective questions. It's like having a conversation with yourself about what you're learning.
Right. It helps you personalize the information and make it more meaningful. For example, let's say you just learned about the importance of giving effective feedback. You could ask yourself, what's one specific example from my own leadership experience where I could have given better feedback?
I'm already starting to see how this could be incredibly helpful in my day-to-day leadership.
And what's even more powerful is connecting what you're learning back to your work.
Okay.
For instance, let's say you're reading about negotiation strategies. Instead of just reading passively, you could ask yourself, what's one negotiation tactic I could try in tomorrow's meeting?
That's such a great point. It's about making that connection between the theory and the practical application.
Yes.
But I think for a lot of people, especially busy leaders,
Yeah.
the biggest challenge is probably just finding the time and the right environment for learning.
That's a common struggle for sure. And that's where the blog post offers some really helpful advice.
Okay.
It talks about the importance of creating a dedicated learning space and scheduling time for it,
Right.
just like you would for any other important meeting.
So instead of squeezing learning into the cracks of my day,
Yes.
I should be blocking off time on my calendar.
Exactly.
And treating it with the same level of importance as a client meeting or a team presentation.
Precisely. And it's not just about finding the time, it's about optimizing your environment for focus and concentration.
So what are some practical tips for creating a learning environment that actually works? I know I'm someone who needs absolute silence to focus, but I have friends who swear by listening to music while they study.
That's a great example of how personalization is key.
Yeah.
What works for one person might not work for another. It's about experimenting and figuring out what helps you get into that flow state.
Right.
Maybe it's a quiet home office, a cozy corner in a coffee shop, or even a park bench on a sunny day.
I like that.
The blog post encourages you to think about things like lighting, noise levels, and even temperature to create a space where you can truly thrive.
I love that it's about creating a learning sanctuary that caters to your individual needs.
Exactly.
And speaking of personalizing the learning experience, I'm curious about the blog post's take on the social aspect of learning. It encourages us to engage with others, whether it's online communities, book clubs, or study groups.
Absolutely. Learning doesn't have to be a solitary pursuit.
Yeah.
There's incredible value in connecting with others who share your interests. It's about sharing insights, getting different perspectives, and learning from each other's experiences.
I'm a big believer in the power of community, and I think it can be especially valuable for leaders.
Yeah.
It's like having a support system of people who understand the unique challenges you're facing.
Exactly. And it's not just about emotional support, it's about accountability and motivation as well.
Right.
When you're part of a learning community, you're more likely to stick with your goals and celebrate each other's successes.
The blog post also had this intriguing suggestion of involving your manager in your self-directed learning journey, which I thought was pretty surprising.
That's a great point, and it's something that often gets overlooked. I mean, most people think of self-directed learning as something you do on your own, separate from your work. But the reality is your personal growth and development are directly tied to your professional success.
So how do you suggest approaching your manager about this? I imagine some people might feel hesitant to bring it up.
It's all about framing it in the right way. Instead of saying, hey, I want to take this course just for myself, you could say, I'm really passionate about developing my skills in X area because I believe it will make me a more effective leader and contribute significantly to the team's goals.
I love that it's about showcasing your initiative and demonstrating how your self-directed learning aligns with the company's objectives.
Exactly.
And honestly, it probably makes your manager's job easier because now they have a clearer understanding of your development goals and how they can support you.
It transforms the conversation from this is what I want, this is how we both benefit. It's a win-win situation.
Okay, so we've talked about setting clear goals, optimizing your learning environment, and even involving your manager in the process. But at the end of the day, it all comes down to putting knowledge into action.
Absolutely.
How does the blog post address that critical step?
It emphasizes that true mastery requires application, not just accumulation of knowledge. It's not enough to read about leadership concepts or listen to podcasts like this one. You need to actively practice and apply what you're learning in real-world situations.
So it's like the difference between knowing the ingredients for a delicious cake and actually baking it. You can study the recipe all day long, but until you get your hands dirty and start mixing those ingredients, you'll never experience the true joy of creating something delicious.
I love that analogy.
And when it comes to leadership development, that baking process involves things like taking on new challenges, seeking out opportunities to practice new skills, and even intentionally putting yourself in situations that push you outside your comfort zone.
Exactly.
I think that's where a lot of leaders stumble. They get comfortable in their roles, and they shy away from challenges because they're afraid of making mistakes.
And that's a missed opportunity because mistakes are incredibly valuable learning experiences. The blog post encourages leaders to embrace challenges as opportunities for growth and to view failure not as a setback, but as a stepping stone on the path to mastery.
And it reminds us that leadership development is not a linear process. It's about embracing the ups and downs, the successes and the failures, and constantly striving to become the best leader you can be.
Exactly. And part of that journey involves celebrating your progress along the way. The blog post reminds us to acknowledge and appreciate those small wins,
Yeah.
those moments where we successfully applied a new skill or navigated a challenging situation with grace and confidence.
It's like giving yourself a pat on the back and saying, hey,
Yeah.
I'm doing great. I'm making progress.
Yeah.
And that positive reinforcement can fuel even more learning and growth.
Speaking of fueling learning and growth, I understand Monarch has something exciting to announce that ties in perfectly with our discussion today.
We do. We've been talking about all these fantastic strategies for self-directed learning.
Yeah.
And now Monarch is offering a structured and supportive environment to help you put those strategies into action.
Fantastic.
We're thrilled to announce the launch of Monarch's individual cohort learning program.
That's wonderful news. Can you tell us more about what this program entails?
Absolutely. Monarch's individual cohort is designed for leaders who are serious about their personal and professional development.
Okay.
It's a blend of online learning and personalized coaching starting February 26th,
Great.
and it includes 2 incredible courses: communicating, negotiating, and resolving conflict,
Oh.
and leading high-achieving teams.
Those sound like essential skills for any leader.
They are. And we're so excited to be offering this program because we believe it's the perfect complement to everything we've been discussing today about self-directed learning.
So it's like providing the structure and support to help leaders actually implement the strategies and techniques we've been exploring.
Exactly. It's about creating a community of like-minded learners and giving them the tools and resources they need to thrive.
This sounds like an incredible opportunity for anyone who wants to take their leadership to the next level.
It is.
I'm curious to learn more about these courses and
Yeah.
how the program is structured.
We'll be diving deeper into those details in the next part of our deep dive.
Sounds good. I'm looking forward to it.
Welcome back to Monarch's Leadership AICast. Before the break, we were talking about the power of self-directed learning and how to make the most of it. We were just about to dive into some more details about Monarch's individual cohort learning program, which is designed to provide a structured and supportive environment for leaders who are ready to level up their skills.
I'm excited to hear more about these courses. You mentioned there are 2: communicating, negotiating, and resolving conflict, and leading high-achieving teams. Can you tell us a little bit more about each one?
Absolutely. Let's start with communicating, negotiating, and resolving conflict. This course is all about giving leaders the tools they need to navigate those tricky interpersonal dynamics that are so common in the workplace.
I think those skills are more important than ever, especially in today's increasingly complex and often remote work environments.
I completely agree. We're constantly interacting with people from different backgrounds, with different communication styles and different perspectives. So this course focuses on helping leaders become more effective communicators, master the art of negotiation, and develop strategies for resolving conflict constructively.
It sounds like a fantastic foundation for building strong relationships and fostering a positive and productive work environment. What about the second course, leading high-achieving teams? What are some of the key takeaways from that one?
This course is designed for leaders who are either currently leading a team or aspiring to step into a leadership role. It's about making that transition from individual contributor to successful team leader, and it covers everything from delegation and feedback to motivation and goal setting.
So it's about equipping leaders with the skills and strategies they need to build high-performing teams and create a culture of excellence.
Exactly. And it's not just about theory. It's about giving leaders practical tools and techniques they can implement immediately.
I love that emphasis on practical application. It's one thing to read about leadership concepts, but it's another thing entirely to put those concepts into practice and see the real-world results.
That's where the real learning happens. And that's what we're so passionate about at Monarch, helping leaders bridge that gap between knowledge and action.
It sounds like Monarch's individual cohort is a fantastic opportunity for leaders to invest in their development and take their skills to the next level.
We believe so. We've packed these courses with valuable insights, actionable strategies, and real-world examples to help leaders make a tangible difference in their organizations.
So for our listeners who are feeling inspired and ready to embark on this learning journey, what's the next step?
We encourage you to visit Monarch's website to learn more about the individual cohort program and the enrollment process. The program kicks off on February 26th, so there's still time to join us.
And as we wrap up this deep dive into self-directed learning, I'd like to leave our listeners with one final thought-provoking question. Think back to everything we've discussed today, from setting clear goals to optimizing your learning environment to embracing challenges. What's one small step you can take today to put those principles into action?
Maybe it's identifying a specific skill you want to develop, scheduling 30 minutes for learning tomorrow morning. or even just having a conversation with your manager about your development goals.
Remember, every journey begins with a single step. And if you're ready to embark on a journey of growth and transformation, we're here to support you every step of the way.
Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep leading.